The Lord be with you. This is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark. This is what he proclaimed. One mightier than I is coming after me. I am not worthy to stoop and loosen the thongs of his sandals. I have baptized you with water. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. It happened in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized in the Jordan by John. On coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens being torn open, and the Spirit like a dove descending upon him. And a voice came from the heavens, "You are my beloved Son. With you I am well pleased." The Gospel of the Lord. Usually when the baptism of the Lord falls on a Sunday and it's a solemnity, there's 3 readings, but when it falls on a weekday, it's a feast, and therefore only the 2 readings. So usually I always tell the distinction between a solemnity and a feast is on a feast you have a Gloria and 2 readings. On a solemnity, you have a Gloria, a Creed, and 3 readings. Okay, that's the lesson for today. There's a quiz tomorrow. The reading today, the first one, is the suffering servant, and it's from the prophet Isaiah, that section of Isaiah that is referred to as the suffering servant. And those predictions, because when we think of Isaiah, we normally think of the predictions of the baptism, or not the baptism, but the birth of the Messiah. All those nice predictions about a child will be born for us and all those things. This one talks about how this Messiah who is coming is going to fall into that category as a suffering servant, as many of the prophets were. That in order to preach his message, he would have to suffer. And just as the prophets were persecuted, then so too would Jesus be persecuted and ultimately put to death. So that's really what it's saying. When we prepare for this Messiah, we'll prepare for the one who will be born to fulfill all those prophecies, but also be prepared for that Messiah who's not necessarily going to be the king that so many people thought, not necessarily going to conquer the Romans as so many people thought, but the one who is, by his suffering, would save us. And then in the gospel, and all the different selections of the gospels, but this year we have the selection from Mark, talks about how when Jesus was baptized, the presence of the 3 persons of the Trinity are always present there too. The appearance of a dove, the voice of the Father, showing that the unity of the 3 persons of the Trinity, and also how all of them are kind of, in a sense, working in concert together with this message and with this calling to save these people, us here on earth. And also I think just to when we have this baptism to show this is where the Lord initiates the ministry that Christmas was all about. Christmas was born, he was born and celebrated, and now the real work of his ministry will begin with this baptism, and also the connection to the suffering servant. Now in a sense that the suffering begins as he begins his ministry. So kind of a nice reflection to think that now Jesus kind of formally will begin that ministry and will begin to sacrifice himself for us. And it wasn't just at those last few days of the Passion, but there was a ministry of sacrifice and suffering that lasted several years. Let's now stand for the intercessions.